Hi, I'm Beth from dryitcanit.com. I like to share with you recipes, tips, and tricks for dehydrating foods and canning foods, as well as original recipes. Today, I want to show you how I dehydrate soup. Yep, soup. It works really well. So what you want to do is you want to have a soup that has some consistency and body to it. If it's all liquid, it can be done, but it's going to take a long time. So I start with trays for my dehydrators, the same trays that you would use when you're using, maybe doing a fruit leather. And because I'm working with a tomato-based soup today, I actually put some parchment paper over my tray, and then I just rub my finger kind of along the edges to put a frame. Now I'm going to show you what I do next. All right, dehydrating the soup is fairly simple. What you're going to want to do is take some soup. Today I have some vegetable lentil soup. And this has a little bit of meat because I actually made this out of leftover spaghetti sauce. And I know that on my tray, I can get about 4 scoops of soup. Now you see what's happening, how the liquid is running over to the edge here? This is why I have some parchment paper to kind of catch that. But I still want to try and keep that from going if I can. But I can get about 4 scoops of soup on my trays. And what I'm going to do, this is a little bit more liquid than I thought, is I'm just going to take a spoon then and spread that out. And especially in the middle, I want that thin because your middle is going to be the area that's going to be slowest to dry. So this is a lentil soup made with leftover spaghetti sauce. Had some meat in it. So I'm going to dehydrate it almost as if it was done with meat. Generally, if you're going to dehydrate meat, you're going to want to be at about 140 degrees. And anytime you're dehydrating meat, it's really only shelf stable for 1 to 2 months. Otherwise, you should probably store it in the freezer. I'm going to be going on a trip, and so I'm dehydrating this soup that I can use really within a couple of weeks. So you can see what I did is I spread this out so that it's fairly thin. And the paper that I put on here serves as a lip to keep that liquid inside. So then I just simply put this in my dehydrator. Because I have very little meat in here, I'm going to do a rebel dehydrating, so to speak, at 135 degrees. That's kind of a compromise between the 125 degrees I would do with vegetables and the 140 degrees that I would do with meat. And I'm going to do this until it's basically dry and crispy. At some point, I'll be able to lift this sheet, flip it over, and I will show you those steps as we get that far. My soup is dehydrated, and I want to show you what it looks like. So again, I put the soup on trays, which I lined with parchment paper, which keeps the liquid in. And when you're done, you really have a crumbly situation here. And I just will pick up some pieces and show you what that looks like. And it just crumbles, so you know it's dry. Now sometimes when I do some things, I get a sheet and I can actually turn the sheet upside down midway. That wasn't the case here. Now, the easiest thing that I find for conditioning is to take something like a cake pan or some kind of a pan that's as wide as your tray if you're directly on the tray, or in my case, the paper, and to just sort of dump it in there. And then I just scrape the rest of those pieces off, like so, because I don't want to waste any of that food, obviously. So, then I have the second one here. Same thing, it pretty much sticks to the paper. I'll let you get a good look at that. And I'll just pick this up, and you can see what happens. You can just shake much of it off, but then I'll just take the rest of it and I'll gently scrape it. It comes off the paper fairly easily. Sometimes the paper tears. Other times I find if I just fold the parchment paper, it works. Now, a lot of times if I'm not doing a tomato-based product, then I'll do it directly on the fruit leather tray. That works really, really well. But again, because tomato-based products sometimes stain, I just didn't want to stain my trays. So that's what I did. So now I have my pieces of soup here, but they're still in sharp shreds. So what I'm going to do is I take my hands and just gently go in and break that up. And I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. Number one, when I condition it, I want those pieces small. But when I package these, because I'm going to be taking these traveling, I'm going to be packaging them in vacuum sealed bags. And the pieces are relatively sharp. So what I don't want to do is puncture the bag. So I actually won't vacuum seal those bags tight. The other thing you can do is you can put your pieces of food, like if I had hash brown potatoes, for example, or something with sharp edge, you can take and put that in a paper towel, wrap it, put that in your vacuum seal bag, and then vacuum seal it, and that works too. So I just go in and squeeze this to break up the pieces a little bit. And I don't know if you can really see the difference there or not. It's sort of sliding. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my funnel. I'm going to put this in a jar. I'm going to let it condition for about 4 days. I wanted to make sure really that my peas are dry, and they are. I can squeeze them and really get a powder. And my corn is so small that I almost can't see it. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to squeeze one of those or not. They're usually pretty hard. I can. So it's crumbly, so I know it's dry. But that said, conditioning is still important. So think about leftovers, dehydrate them, reuse them. Things that don't dehydrate well are things with a lot of oil or things with a lot of sugar. That sugar tends to absorb moisture from the air right away. But this is a great way, again, to save your leftovers, keep them from going to waste. So if you liked this, sure would appreciate you subscribing to my channel, or thumbs up on the video, so that if you feel like you learned something, then I know something that you enjoyed this. Now I'm going to try and find my remote to shut this off, but I thank you for watching, and happy dehydrating.